What's going on? Y'all see the title. Check out Chinatown Gang Stories. Oh my God. Y'all know I've watched Kev Mac videos. I've watched Michael Franchise. But Kev Mac, he do the Crip and Blood videos, gangs from LA. Michael Franchise he does the Italian mob. Chinatown Gang Stories. Oh my God. Dang. You know, I didn't realize until you watch this channel, you don't realize the contribution of street life, gang life, prison life, the impact the Chinese gangsters have contributed, like some of the slang, to the what they call the old school way of, like, they call it the spit razor. They invented that. Uh, they invented the spit razors. Some of they slang, like some of the poems that they uh write is similar to like hip hop, the way they rhyme it. But they've been doing that for centuries, man. Um, how do I know? There's a movie back in the '80s called Avenging Eagles, Shaw Brothers film, and I remember him saying a poem and it rhymed, and I didn't, this is before Run DMC. I didn't think nothing of it, but yeah, they've been doing that tradition for a long time. A lot of that is used in the gangster lifestyle. Like, they have poetry to identify. They got hand signs and signals, like I said, and their slang is like it plays a major part, especially in New York, man. You gotta and then they got generations. They got OGs on there. Then they got newer, I say younger guys like China Mac. If y'all familiar with China Mac, he's a rapper. Um, they got generations. Like I said, the OG, the guy who runs the channel, um, he comes from the 70s, and there's like generations. So they go way back to the 50s, the 60s. Ty, what's going on, Ty? Yeah, man, Ty Corbin. I'm just, man. I stumbled across a channel called Chinatown Gang Stories, man, and let me tell you, that channel is very informative. I mean, it is a good channel. Y'all watch it. Um, Amazing channel. What's going on, Fox? What's going on, Fox? Fox, let me know if the weekend's good. Saturday, Sunday, I'm good for that. Uh, Ty and Dot Nibram are the same guy. Oh, okay, okay. Cool deal, cool deal. So, um, Corbin, have you checked out Chinatown Gang Stories? Cause, man, I will admit I slept on that whole thing, man. You hear about, like, I've always, in video games and movies and all that, I've heard about like Chinatown wars but I've never really like did my research until I came across Chinatown Gang Stories, man. And these guys are, yo, I'm gonna keep. If you want to see some hood Chinese dudes, that is a channel to go to, man. It's like, dang, yes. I like the gang stories from San Francisco's 1880s. Okay, okay. This one is more modern, but yeah, that San Francisco, yeah, they play a big part in the culture too. Um, the West Coast. Yeah, because you got an East Coast and West Coast factions of Chinese gangs. You know what I'm saying? You got them in San Francisco, California, of course. South Central, and you got them in New York. So uh, it's and as you know, the Chinese have been here since I want to say the 1800s, the early 1800s, because a lot of them took part in the construction of the railroads, and so which there was a lot of Irish and a lot of African Americans. We took part in that too, but they played a very big role, and so in the early days of San Francisco, the Chinese had a lot of influence. Yeah, I didn't realize, yo, Corbin, I didn't realize the Chinese, especially in New York, had a lot of influence on the hip hop and rap. I didn't know that. They had a lot of influence. Um, a lot of influence. I didn't know that because, you know, they have poems that rhyme. They had poems that go back into the Ming Qing dynasty, you know, and so uh, when I say Ming Qing, during the Ming and then during the Qing era, those are two different eras in China. But yeah, they have poetry where their clans, they would identify each other through not only hand signs but through poetry, and that goes way back, like way back, like the Chinese Wall era. Like I said, Ming, if you're familiar with the Ming and Qing dynasty, that's way back. So yeah, a lot of that came here to America, and a lot of that influence, a lot of their slang, a lot of that, man, through through tattoo. Yeah, that tattoo. Oh yeah, that big time with the tattoos. Black Sun, I have found old Buddha carvings in the Nevada desert from the railroad. Okay, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because yeah, they've been helping build the railroad. What's going on? Are they ready to go? Oh hell, man, I'm not ready to go yet, man. Just got on here. Simpson, what's going on, man? What's going on? Uh, in the early days of the Simpsons. Okay, so I read that. Had found old Buddha. Yeah, the old Buddha carvings. It wouldn't surprise me because, like I said, they've been here. They helped build the railroads, man, with us. And so, oh shit. And so, yeah, the Chinese. What I'm tripping on is that um, a lot of your modern stuff. Well, you know, again, like I said, the Chinese poetry was a lot of rhyming in it, and I posted I posted like two videos, man. Check out those videos, man. And like I said, a lot of the slang, a lot of the poetry, the hand signs, and all that. I said, damn. And again, it merged with street life and gangster culture. And like I said, the only thing I can validate that they invented was the goddamn spit razor. They invented that. Now you got black people, Hispanics, and whatnot who have mastered that, but yeah, the Chinese invented that. They invented the spit razor that's in prison where they and do all that shit. So um I let's see, the Chinese were not allowed to practice Buddhism in public, so they went to the edges of the town and practice their religion. Right, I can imagine during the 1800s, man. I know that it was probably really strict for the Chinese to practice, because I'm sure things were really hard back in the 1800s and shit. So I can imagine. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to find carvings, and all that stuff. And like I said, they go way back, way, way, way back. And that's why I'm glad movies like, well, um, the guy who directed Warriors, if y'all remember that old school 70 movies, The Warriors, even with the movie, they kind of showed the Chinese game, but in the video game, they got in more in depth. So, there is a lot of railroad history still left. Hold on. Let me read that. Left in the Nevada and Utah deserts. I mean, yeah, the railroad everywhere. Yeah, yeah, the railroads everywhere, man. The Chinese were building that, and you know, I think it was they call him Big Head. If you watch Big Head, he's one of the triad members. He talks about how um the triads, he was a triad over here in America. So they were like American factions, and then of course you have the Chinese factions. And when he got locked up, two of his dilos uh asked if he wanted to go to China. And when you go to China, those guys have been around for a long time. But he said, um, and I post his videos, man. Like I said, look up Big Head. He's one of the Tong Tong. I forgot which triad. Tong. You know, they got all, man. They had so many factions of gangs, and then different periods. They had the White Dragon, the Black Dragon. They had the I can't pronounce it. They had the Flying Dragon. They had the Ghost Shadows. Um, and then they had Born to Kill. Ghost Shadows, you could tell they're more Americanized. Um, when I listen to them brothers, man, they slang. You could tell they got some like old school '80s, early '80s, late '70s slang, man. I was like, oh yeah, man, these dudes have been around, man. And you know, they got a lot of gang stories to tell, man. A lot of gang stories, prison stories, man. It's really good stories, man. I love those stories. Me, 'cause, you know, I love dealing with reality, man. So, um, you know, like I said, when you think of gangsters, man, I'm gonna keep it real. I really didn't think about. I mean, I think about black people, white people, Hispanics, and I just when I thought about Asians, I think of people who are professional. And then when you see these dudes, you're like, oh yeah, yeah. It all. It's almost like your genetic memory. You're like, yeah, okay. It's a lot of this makes sense. And like I said, I've heard about the gang wars, the Chinatown gang wars, but I never really looked into it. Now I'm looking into it, man. Yeah, they made a big mark. And like I said, check out that channel. Check that channel out. It is fire, man. It is fire. So um, I wanted to give them a plug. They are professional gangsters. You know, Corbin, they got so if you're talking about the Dilo, yeah, the Dilo, they wear the suit and ties. You can't tell they're gangsters, but they still got foot soldiers that are straight hood. They just straight hood. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about the Dilos. The Dilos, you know, they're more, you know, the higher ups. They wear the suit and tie, and they'll tell you that they don't look like gangsters. They look like businessmen. But the foot soldiers, you know, have a different look. You know, the tattoos and all that. The Dilos, they well, you got the Dilos, and then you got the ones that are above. Well, the high up is the Dilo, but you got, like I said, in China, because in China, gang activity, man, you can get the death penalty for that. You can get the death penalty for drilling drugs. Uh, I mean, they do extortion, but what I'm saying is that uh, it's real strict in China. So China, you can't really be walking around with tattoos and all that. I mean, you can, but you can't really be. A lot of those guys be wearing suit and ties and sunglasses and shit and be looking professional, and you can't tell that they're um, part of any triad factions or gangs. And so, um, not like here in the U.S. See, here in the U.S., the foot soldiers have to adapt because a lot of them grew up around black people. A lot of them grew around Italians, especially in New York and LA, especially LA. LA and New York, you got more of the foot soldiers. And so they'll have the tattoos and all that and be cut and, you know, you know, but in China, you can't tell. Like I said, because the China, it being more strict. Um, let's see. Blackson, there is a town called High Folk, California. They grow weed. The first town to legalize weed in California, the Chinese mafia bought a shilton of property right away. Large Chinese population. So, hey, is that okay? So, Corbin, is that Northern California, Central, or Southern California? Because I know in Southern California, there's a large Chinese population. Like I said, I went to school in South Central LA with a lot of Chinese, man. And there's so many, especially in Long Beach, there's so many Asian gangs in Long Beach, East LA. You know, it's funny because a lot of the Asians kind of inter um, integrated with the 18th Street. You know, 18th Street being the Latino gang. There were a lot of Asians in the 18th Streets, and there were some Asians, believe it or not, later on that got integrated into the Crips. So you had Asians, the Chinese, like we, well, they see the business potential. A lot of Chinese, they're really focused on their money. They're really focused on their money. So if it involves the drug trade, then they'll, because in the 70s, a lot of that heroin, they called it China White, came, of course, from China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and all that. It came from Asia, and so they, especially in New York, I mean, they fed your Nicky Barneses, your damn Frank Lucases, and all that. The Chinese fed all that. So came from Vietnam. Yeah, yeah, it came from Vietnam. But the Vietnamese would, what I learned too is that the Vietnamese were close with the Chinese. In fact, I didn't know. Was it Big Head or Onion Head? It was one of them that said, I didn't know this. They said the triads and the Yakuza were tight. Let me say that again. They said the Japanese Yakuza and the Chinese triads were tight. They said a lot of the Asians, when they came here, um, they would just stick together. And so they were like, the Flying Dragons were actually Vietnamese. They were actually Vietnamese. But even though what one guy said, he said, look, and this guy name was Kenny, man. Kenny, I posted that video. He said, look, man, when they went to prison, the Chinese, it didn't matter if you were Chinese, Vietnamese, Cambodian, they would just stick together. You know what I'm saying? Because the numbers were not that large, and so they would have to stick together with other Asian ethnic groups, and they would just came together. And so I'm thinking because on the streets, I'm thinking they just had the Yakuza and the triads had to get along. I never knew that. Again, I never, and when I learned it, it made sense. It made sense, and I was like, you know what? It makes sense for the Yakuza in America and the triad and Yakuza to get along. And I just, I never really, it's, Chinese gangster, although Chinese gangster calls civilian Asians onion heads. Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, onion heads. I did not know that. Um, I just know that when I was told that when I heard them talking about the Yakuza and the triad getting along, and they said they were going to actually start some massage parlors and gambling houses together. I said, oh, that makes sense, because they're both about their money. They both about making money and making money and starting businesses. They're both about making money and starting businesses. So um, it made sense. It makes sense. So you know. Got to go, my friends. See you next time. All right, Corbin, man. Hey, I gotta go over here because I think they got getting started, man. But yeah, man, check out Chinatown Gang Stories. Chinatown Gang Stories. I got the videos posted. If y'all go to my playlist or my community, I post several videos. Man, subscribe to that channel. Check out they stuff, man. Man, you guys will be you guys won't regret it. Trust me, man. You guys will be thoroughly entertained, educated, and enlightened. Like I said, it was a lot of things that I learned. I learned a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And like I said, the most surprising, but it wasn't surprising. But most surprising, but made sense was the unity between the Yakuza and the Triads. But it makes sense. It makes sense. So, with that being said, let me give a shout out to before I go. Let's get a shout out to Corbin. Let me give a shout out to who else is in here? Corbin. Oh, Simpson Fox. Hey man, I'll see y'all later. I'll probably do another video later on. Let me watch the news a little bit. Like I said, I've been watching the Chinatown gang stories. Man, I gotta. Yeah, I love that channel, man. I just love that channel, man. A lot of stories, man. Y'all check out Kev Mac videos too if you want to learn about Crips and Bloods. Kev Mac videos good. You want about the Italian Mafia, Michael Franchese. Um, and in fact, because I learned through Chinatown gang stories through Michael Franchese. Michael Franchese interviewed one of the was it Flying Dragons or Ghost Shadows, one of the Ghost Shadow members. So with that being said, man, let me get start this truck up. I'm out, y'all. Peace. I